Hey everybody, claim it, claim the first reward. How's it going? So we're gonna start the way we normally do, which is tenant review. But there's not too much to review since last week was not a full week. I think I only streamed Monday of last week. Yeah. So let's try to fly through this tenant review. Yeah, and I'll write note only streamed for 1 day last week. Whoops. I did not mean to click that. I don't even know where that just went. There we go. All right, where are you, tenants? Where are you? There you are. Okay, so post-stream to-dos. Got to catch up on some stuff last week. Not a ton. Get to the point. We did music stuff, and then, yeah. So the prototype was a manifestation of this. Who's that? Is that Shane? Good morning to you too, Shane. Thanks for resubbing. And yeah, hey, everybody. Prototype was a manifestation of this. We're now going to be redesigning. By the way, this won't take very long. I'm going to be done pretty soon, and then we will carry on. Sustainability. I took time off of streaming to address this. It was greatly needed. I think I need to keep Thursdays off the stream schedule. All right, embrace failure. I'm just gonna write NA because I don't think there was really a time for that. Community, going poorly. I need to do more for that. And then the final thing, successes. The new design is looking good. Taking time off streaming was the right move. And was there anything else? I don't know. Yeah, I think things are going. Oh yeah, formed a team. Yeah, I gotta make a credits page, but I got Quickie Joe and Darkstorm on board for creating this game. So here's what this entire week is probably gonna be. It's probably gonna be design. Let me go find. Yeah. So this week is gonna be design, maybe some like mock-ups and maybe some quick prototyping, but I think it's mostly gonna be design. And when I say design, I mean game design. And no Ludum Dare sort of thing. Is that what you mean by LD Gem? I'm guessing. Yeah, no. I'm not gonna be doing Ludum Dare. I have some like big things to share with respect to the design, but I'm gonna need to say this like 40 times this week. So let's see if I can say it maybe once and get it into this document that I have in the today command. So for those who haven't seen the today command, here it is, and there's the document, and this is the old public design document. And I wrote an update at the top from April 8th, which is now a week ago. This document is for archiving. The game was released as a prototype, and from that, the game is worth pursuing. However, some changes to the original design are needed. So I'm making a new design document. The new document is private, but here's a high-level overview. Yeah, so this is kind of what I want to cover, and you're all going to hear me say it because I want to say it at some point, but then afterward, people are going to keep asking, and I'll probably just point them to this. So a lot of the feedback, and let's pull up the prototype here. Okay, so the feedback was on this prototype. A lot of things we cut corners for, that's fine. It wasn't supposed to be fully representative of the game, just enough to know that it was fun to make. So you moved characters around this world, you got into battles, you chose your ability to use in battle at first. So there was this manual control. But then eventually you started putting points into this automation skill, which would fully automate your character in battle. So a bunch of little things have been sort of realized along the way. For one, that manual control isn't really that important for this game, especially because, at least in the prototype, you ironed it out very quickly. So it was like, you saw I just leveled up once, and I now have, you can't tell from the UI, but I now have a 25% chance to just not have to do anything in battle. And that's a little strange. So we're just cutting that completely. It's just going to be that when you get into a battle, if an ability is ready, it gets used. And as a result of that, there are going to be probably fewer abilities to start with. So imagine just having this Fire Blast skill. And that's it. That's what the mage starts with, and it just uses it every time it's off cooldown. So it's like an auto attack. And then you start unlocking more abilities, and so your characters can do more and more powerful things. So one thing is, and I want to make sure this is all written here. Yeah, now characters are now fully automated. So the next thing people said is, you eventually get to the point where you unlock more characters and you're moving those around the world as well. I don't have an easy way of showing all of this because I've been tinkering with the local code and this doesn't have cheats in it. But people were like, why can't I group up? Why is there no concept of like these characters helping each other? And in the prototype, there was literally no reason to have more than one character. There was no helping, even in a I'm earning items or currency or something. So if you imagine playing any typical dungeon crawler, if you had 8 characters, you might be getting items that are exclusive to a certain character and then you trade them or something. That doesn't happen in this. So people didn't see a reason to get more characters. And while I did have a plan for what would happen there, we are going to make it so that you can group up and take on instances. Instances are going to be another new thing, which I'll talk about in a bit. So I've got some plans for this, and this entire week is just about talking about these plans and developing them. But yeah, so you'll be able to group up. So now instead of just having a mage here, you might have like a mage and a warrior and a cleric and something else. And you have 4 players against whatever enemies you fight. This thing I said about instances, we have a world map here. And the world map in the prototype was like, hey, your characters could just run all over the place and go to wherever they want. And you were eventually supposed to have to open doors between them. And I don't know. Anyway, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense, I think. So for this next thing that I want to talk about, I want to show you a picture that I made. Actually, I guess it's over here. So imagine that you are in an instanced dungeon for just some group. So here I have like an archer and a warrior. You sort of progress through this like a timeline almost. So this represents a battle. There won't need to be a battle window. It'll just take place in this dungeon area. And then when you win this battle, you will go through this door automatically and fight the boss. And so this is a really cool way of handling all this stuff and still giving you the battles and not having to make you manually control everything. So I'm hoping this works out. It's another major change. Let me see if I've got some other ones I want to talk about. Oh yeah. So this is the biggest one, and I'll talk about this a little bit, which is people said, I'm doing these battles, but they're automated and I'm moving characters around, but like eventually you're going to have the characters move for me. So like, what am I doing in the game? And I just kept saying, look, I think this is just the idle genre. This is what people are used to. But with the real idle genre, it cranks all this up to 11 and has you play for, 1,000 hours, and there's a million different things going on. And so here's the big new thing, which is that there's going to be a town that you have. So yeah, you run a town and you sell items to NPC customers, and you get those items from the battles that you do. So that's the short story of the new system. And this is still going to be like, it's not going to be that you're making a million decisions and like, what am I pricing items at or something? It's just going to be like, there's just another system here. So, you can watch the battles play out. You can watch your town sell stuff. It's like, it's still just a chill sort of simulation game. A little overflow from the other stream game idea. You mean that like auction house thing? I guess a little bit. This would be a manager type of game. Yeah, sort of, I guess. And so the new kind of working title of this is maybe like Loot Tycoon or Treasure Tycoon. That's kind of what I'm thinking of. So we're steering away from the whole like, yeah, battles where everything is happening, and I have so many reasons for this, but that is all the short story of this. So that's the lead in to what we're going to be talking about this week. And hopefully this part at the top here kind of sums up what's going on. And I'll write here, note, this was for the original design, not the new design. So there's not much of a reason to read this anymore. The town. Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, good ad. Yeah, I think so too. And I think it'll be, I think these represent important changes without hopefully too much complexity. So this is the foundation for this entire week. And I have a new document somewhere. Where is it? New design, what I missed. Well, even if you had just done that and weren't kidding about this. No, that's not it. New system. Idle. Where is this stupid thing? Idle Ascendants scratch. There it is. Yeah, this is the new document. This is private, so I don't think anybody has access to this, right? Let me take a look off screen. Yep, only the team has access to this. So I'm going to put this here. Where is it? A new design document. Yeah, so if you hadn't heard it, it's all summed up here. And yeah, there's a town, there's no world map, adventures are automated, and battles are changed a little bit. The battles part isn't really all that important. So yeah, lot of things come out of this, and we need to talk about that. So that's what we're gonna do. That's what today's all about. Manual influence over battles. Yeah. All right, so let's scroll down here to some of these questions that I still have. Yeah, how do we build such that we're focusing on the new player experience? This isn't so much a question as it is just a thing I want to keep in mind here. I'm going to rename this to Loot Tycoon. Loot Tycoon. Okay, so the new elevator pitch is you run a town that sells items to NPC customers. However, you don't have the adventuring skills yourself to acquire those items. Instead, you hire, not really mercenaries, you hire out that work to automated battlers that will accrue items for you to sell. Yeah, the game is a laid back simulation / RPG. Something like that, yeah. No, maybe, I don't know. I want to... Yeah, I'll just delete this. I think it's fine. Maybe I'll say it here. Laid back single player game that has this. Evolution of Idle Ascendants into prototype. Yeah, I don't feel like it was truly idle. So title, I wrote this in the other document that we have here. I had some ideas yesterday. I was kind of exploring some of these. This was kind of more wild than the rest of these. Skella Seller. You play as a skeleton who died as an adventurer and now wants to run a shop. But I feel like, I don't know. I think it's a cutesy idea, but I think at least a working title for this could just be, Loot Tycoon. Yo, thanks for resubbing. 50 months. Reminds me of this, but you're a shopkeep instead of a blacksmith. Okay, this is already muted. Good. Blacksmith is a definitive blacksmithing experience. Make and sell weapons, armor, and tools. Send heroes on quests. Unlock their unique potential. Grow the town of Ironwell. Yeah, this does sound pretty similar. This looks very different from what I have planning, though. Hey, Cot. Over on YouTube. Yeah, this looks very, very different from what I have planned. Huh. Skeleton Cell. I love this name. Sell a ton to skeleton. And I think there's a world where this works, and I think it's a hook that people could more identify with, of like, oh, that's my main character. It's the skeleton, and he wants to be rich. And it's like, okay, yeah. So maybe we could go that route. So leaning toward this. Something that communicates that it's an auto battler. Something that communicates that it's a game. What else do I have written here? Yeah, about selling stuff. Yep. Meme potential is strong. I spent a long time last night just trying to come up with names. I went through an AI, but I was like, I don't like any of these AI names. So I just started coming up with stuff myself. And through that, I had a bunch of keywords that I liked here. So for now, the working title will be Loot Tycoon. Some backups that I liked were Treasure Tycoon. I like Loot Tycoon better, I think. And I also liked Loot Land. It's just 2 letters different from Botland. I thought it'd be pretty cool. But no, I'm not going to do that. Also, I think Lootland showed up with a game already, whereas these other ones didn't. Yeah. Okay, so that's a working title. Don't care about this stuff. Make GitHub repo, share access, make a project, add a homepage. Yeah, development philosophy. So I think we're going to say keep an eye on the new player experience. Yeah, since we'll have checkpoints often enough. I want new players to be able to understand the game quickly. And I think that was written down up here somewhere, right? Yeah. It can be a little bit text heavy at first. Yep, cool. All right, so don't care about that now. All right, so instances. What do we even have written here? General design stance. Prototype was deemed fun enough by the majority of people. Want to develop the game with improvements. Don't think any new big systems are worth doing unless we identify a need for them. Yeah, this is really tough. In fact, I think this is one of the toughest things about game design is how do you know when something is missing just from a written document? And I don't know if you totally can determine that. I think sometimes you just need to play the game. And then when you play the game, it's probably easy enough to tell, are you having fun or not? But it's not easy to tell, is it because there's too much? Is it because there's too little? So based on what people said in their feedback, I mean, I think that's what led us to here. And I think it's generally a good move. But yeah, I think we're deleting this entire section now. So that's it. This has no conclusions in it yet, and we eventually want to get them there. And I'm going to, I guess, stage them in this document first. So I think instances make sense. I have this mock-up here. It's kind of hard to read probably, but the town view will probably always be on screen and take up the majority of it. And then 1, 2, and 3 will be your instance slots, and they'll look like what you saw over here. So they don't need to take up a lot of space on the screen. I mean, if you think about this as if this gray area in the middle is your screen, you know, your instance could just be something like this going on down here. And maybe you can only see one room at a time so that it's really like, I guess I'll put it on the side here so you can see, like all you really need to see is something like that. And now imagine this 3 times on the screen and you're pretty good. You can show maybe cooldown information and stuff. So I like that. Hey, Trackley. Yeah, and I think we need to write this down somewhere. Where do we write this? Buildings, battles. Need a new title for the game. Coin and Conquest, Medieval Magnet. I'm going to put these down at the bottom. I don't think these are really good. Okay, so should go under battles. Goose, thanks for resubbing. Nice to see the people who are on 5-month streaks. Been doing this since December 4th. So this is the battle system itself. I guess we should say like, maybe we call them dungeons, instances / dungeons. I'm not sure what we'll call these yet in the game, but I'm gonna say you enter, your characters enter a dungeon through a portal in the town, and then upon clicking a portal, it asks you which of your, I guess I should say, dungeons have a maximum number of party members that you can send. You know, this thing about summons, like we had the Necromancer in the original game. Hey, Tim. They had the Necromancer in the original game, and it could just keep summoning skeletons. And there were 9 slots on each side, and your Necromancer took up 1, which meant you could have 8 skeletons. I wonder if we should even have something like that still. We should probably just have a maximum number of summons per player. Because, like, I don't think you should be able to duplicate your classes that you have. But let's say you could have 9 Necromancers. Like, are you summoning a total of, 72 skeletons? Did I do Ludum Dare? No. I gotta probably make it clear this has nothing to do with Ludum Dare. This was the game that I'd been developing over the 3 weeks before last, I guess. But Idle Ascendants, the prototype is available there, but it now doesn't really resemble the final game closely enough. So what we're doing is we're redesigning that into the final game. And the design document that I shared there has the like changes at the top, which wouldn't mean anything if you hadn't played the game or hadn't read, the rest of the 40 pages of this document. So the short story is actually, I guess the short story is in this elevator pitch right here. This one thing I've highlighted. What was the theme of Ludum Dare this year? Ludum Dare theme. I don't even see it. It says September 30th to October. Oh, there it is. Ludum Dare 55. What's the theme? Oh, summoning. Interesting. Yeah. What are the odds that I happen to be talking about that right now? Yeah, I see it. Okay, and maybe I'll just write that down as a question for next. This is not the right thing. Here it is. So yeah. Den, thank you for the resub. I appreciate it. Whoops, this doesn't go here. This goes here. How should summons work now that you'll have a party? Should we limit the number of summons to 1 per character? Should we have some number of devoted summon slots? Should the max party size be increased? Yeah. Well, the main question right now was not even that. It was the instant stuff, which I got to write down still. All right. So upon clicking a portal, it asks you which of your available adventurers you want to send. This can just be UI with checkboxes on it. Yeah. And I'll say the game can remember which groupings you've specified in the past and suggest them for next time. E.g., if you send characters X, Y, and Z, then the next time that you choose Y, it'll try to grab X and Z. Okay, what else do we have for that? Because there's a whole bunch of stuff going on for instances here. So that's this part. After you've chosen, they'd be given the same group and who was a unit. Yep, that part I have not fully written down yet. And we'll just type like XXX here so that we can go between these two sections of the document. Yeah. Okay, so once in the instance, your party moves as a group, or I'll just say like does battle as a group. In other words, there's no way for there to be stragglers who get cornered. All right, so that's all of this now. That's done. This I already wrote down. All right, there could be class-specific instances. I don't think this is an interesting idea. I'm just going to copy paste this down to the bottom. All right, may need to change entire classes to be designed around meeting a specific need. Yeah, so before, when the game was purely solo classes, every class had to fill every role, if you think about it that way. Like, they couldn't be too squishy or they'd just die because there was no supporting that somehow. So now, though, with parties, you don't have to do this, but I need to consider how we set this up. Also, if there are healers, then it probably can't be their first skill that they get, or else they do no damage in combat. Also, at some point, too, we got to figure out what's the maximum party size that you ever get. What's the maximum party size that you can ever attain? There would be a ton going on if there were 36 abilities being used in battles. Maybe, I mean, it'd be fun to see. It would be a ton of stuff going on. Yeah, I gotta think about how that's gonna work. Okay, I still need to think about that at some point, but yeah, I think we're gonna go with this approach. So I'll write this down up here. The UI for all of, or I guess you can have up to 3 dungeons going at a time. The UI will probably look something like this. Yep. What else? This should be bumped down. What just happened? Oh, the find dialog doesn't, oh darn it. That's not what I wanted. There we go. Weird. Okay, battles are always in your face. There's a natural draw for that. Yep, yep, yep. Yeah, so rationale. Battles are always in your face. That way you can't just outright ignore them since it's not a trivial system. And then we need to write the rationale for this one. Natural draw for having party-based instances, even if you could beat them solo, since you're going to consume an entire instance slot either way. Yep. So this is done. Makes it so we don't really have to balance the choice between 2 one-person instances and 1 two-person instance. Yeah. Could have a way to maximize the town. Yeah, maybe. This is fine. And then could make it so battles don't need a special window to play out, but the room is set up specifically for a battle. So it's like a battle window in the end anyway. Imagine something like this. Nice thing here is that there's no difference between overworld characters and the battle characters. What you see on the overworld is what you'll get into a battle with. Yeah, I think that's just something we'll go with here. Yeah, I'll write that here. Battles play out directly in the dungeon map as opposed to in a pop-up window. React or Angular or Vue or Next? Is there context to the question? This is like going up to someone and saying lemons or apples. It's like, what, for just eating in your hand, for building into or baking into a pie? Are you asking for yourself? Are you asking for me? Are you like? Because if so, I pick lemons. All right, can make it so the battles don't need a special window. Room set specifically for battle. Yeah. All right, so rationale for this stuff is you can tell what you'll get into a battle with. And I'll write like in the prototype, the overworld character may have had upwards of 9 battle characters in it. And there's one other piece that was nice about this, which is like, since there should be dedicated screen space for battles, it'll be less confusing than having shared screen space and pop-up windows. By the way, Peace, I'm happy to answer your question. I honestly don't know what it is. Like, I mean, there's any number of ways I can interpret it. All right, I still need to think about how experience will work with this. With group battles. All right, I'm just trying to get all the instance stuff for right now. So we can now tab this back. Okay, anything else that we need? Mockups, summons, instance versus world map. Yeah, so this is all the other instance stuff that we have here, and I had like a million questions. Yeah, this is definitely what we're tackling next. Let's bump this up to the top of the list. And then all right, makes people feel like they want groups a little bit less. I wrote that as a pro, but I don't I ended up undoing that decision anyway. Makes it so the world map doesn't need to be super cohesive. A world map needs a reason for existing, and I don't think there was a compelling one. I think this is the biggest thing. It's like, yeah, if you have a world map in a game, there needs to be a reason for a world map. And there just really wasn't much of one. Yeah. Oh, there was another part of this too, I guess, which is you don't need to. There's no need to spawn new enemies within an instance. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just going to copy this down here, but I just didn't have a reason for this. All right, what I listed as the cons, we talked about this. It splits your characters into totally separate worlds to the point where it may not even feel like there's a reason to battle. Yeah, so this has been addressed by the whole let's have dedicated screen space for it. But these questions may not have been addressed. Is there an easy way we can show the battles for your characters? I think I answered this question. Yeah, I think we answered this question. How are you picking the instances? Okay, that is a good question. So the way that I imagine this working is you in your town have a bunch of different things you can build. And I think I wrote them out somewhere. Where is it? Yeah. So the types of buildings you can have are things that sell stuff. So like blacksmith, armorsmith, alchemist, maybe things that store stuff, maybe something that can repurpose garbage gear into something else. And this exists in a lot of games, not as a building necessarily, but like, you know, two bat wings forms a potion of some sort. It's like bat wings do literally nothing in a game, and then you combine them and they do something. So yeah, something like that that repurposes items, spell shop or something like that. And then yeah, portals. So portals are something that you can build. Maybe there's a dedicated space for them. And this works almost like just a region chooser. So you have something like the forest portal, and maybe it says like level 1 to 3, and you mostly find like, I don't know, small groups of enemies. And then you might have something like whatever the cave portal, and it's going to be level 4 to 6, and it has like medium-sized groups of enemies or something like that. And so now keep imagining that this just goes on and on and on, and you get something like, you know, Death Mountain here, and it's like level 72, and it's like mostly fire immune monsters. Off to kill the forest people. They're not people. They're rats and bats, and bat people and rat people. So the interesting part about this fire immune thing is like, okay, well, you probably have characters that do fire damage, and now they're not going to be helpful there. So it's like, okay, don't form a party that does fire damage and go to Death Mountain. But if that's the only kind of choice you're making, it's not really an interesting choice. Also, I got to think of how abilities ramp up if you're going to get groups. We got to talk about that at some point too. Yeah, there are quite a lot of things here. So if there are groups, then we probably don't want you to get to having like 3+ abilities very quickly, or else way too much will be happening in battle. Hey, Tropical Banana Man. Is there anything else here? I want you to feel like there's no reason for you to want manual control in battle. So like abilities just get used immediately. And I think that's fine. And I think having one ability per character is a totally fine way to start. And almost no matter what, that's what's going to happen. But then at some point, you should probably get 2 and then 3. And so there's more stuff being used. How'd you get in the habit of writing things down all the time? I think it was just a slow buildup from like, I don't know, 15 or 16 years ago. I just wanted to not have to remember stuff. And so the more I could write down, the less I would have to remember. And then it just became having a good enough system where you could find it easily. And designing like this is sometimes a little bit tough because, like, if you've been watching this process, in the last, let's say, 3 weeks, this design has evolved so much where, like, I want to keep the archived knowledge that I have, but it doesn't really need to be at the forefront of anything. So you might have seen I have, where is it? Yeah, this. I have an overflow, like, stream of consciousness document here. And this document is 28 pages. And it's 28 pages of, like, mostly nonsense at this point. But, like, if I ever need it, now I know that it's there. I'll probably end up deleting this at some point. But yeah, I do want to make an organization course, and I just haven't gotten around to it yet. All right, where did we leave off of this? Oh yeah, how are you picking the instances? So yeah, I guess I don't have a super compelling answer for this. And Darkstorm had some ideas that I want to take a look at. Where was it? How about having instance modifiers where we could apply penalties for extra experience, like more monster life, more monsters, damage penalty, etc. Yeah. Is there a reason why you prefer Google Docs versus OneNote back then? I have always kind of looked at Google Docs as my real-time note sharing. And I think I have a thing for this. Yeah. This explains a little bit about it, at least. As far as OneNote goes, I'm not like super happy with OneNote, but I don't think there's a problem with using it, at least not for most people. So if something's working for you, by all means, continue to use it. And just think of what it is that you need out of your note taking. So for some people, it's like you could literally just write .txt files on your computer. And for someone, that might be totally fine. Like you have no reason to share them with other people. You have no reason to publish them to a website. And it's like, hey, you have a way of sorting these in folders and you back them up sometimes, maybe to GitHub or whatever. For me, I wanted very specific things out of my note taking. And so Obsidian accomplishes most of it. And then I use OneNote still for my private notes and then Google Docs for my like real-time shared notes. And I know I didn't share this document with everybody, like this one's private in particular, but it's shared with a couple other people. So yeah, the ability to change could allow you to change some parameters of the instance for more loot and more challenge. Decide if you're writing the new version in C# or GD script. It's almost certainly going to be GD script. Or sorry, I said the wrong thing. Almost certainly going to be C#. There are some like weird things about Godot and C#. For one, GD script has this concept of an onReady variable. And the way that this worked, it was really simple. You just said like, hey, onReady, you get a label and you set it immediately in the declaration of this. C# has no equivalent of this. And it's been years that they've had an open issue on this and it still just has no equivalent. And I don't know, it's like little things like that make me just think it's still showing signs of immaturity as an engine. Never been a fan of Notion. I just never used Notion. And the reason why is because back when Notion released, they charged beyond using, I think, 1,000 blocks of storage. And I was just like, I have no idea what 1,000 blocks means, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to go beyond it. And I don't want to be paying for my note-taking software for the rest of my life. So I just never even used Notion. Since then, they've changed it. I think you can use it free for personal use and have however many blocks you want. And I don't know when they made that change. Anyway, that wasn't the biggest thing about C# though. Godot unit testing is one of the big problems. What do they write about this? Godot engine allows you to write unit tests directly in C++. C++. Yeah, I don't know what it's like to write. This is engine development anyway. I don't know what it's like to write unit tests in C# for Godot. And I don't think there's great support. And I think you need to use a library. And I think none of them are like all that great yet. And that's the other problem. I don't know if it's better for GD script. But yeah, I'm like sort of kind of wondering, is it worth using Unity? And I don't like that idea. I want to still use Godot. So we'll probably just suck it up, use C# and Godot, and just see what happens. All right, well, let's go through the ones that are easier to answer. What's a penalty or reward for finishing an instance? Yeah, I don't know yet. What does death mean with instance? I don't know that yet either. Maybe the instances themselves are portals that you build. Yeah, this one was already settled. Yep. How do we make it clear which enemies are in each instance? This is probably not that bad to do through UI. I think you should be able to specify how they'll complete it. Yeah, this I don't think matters either. I'll just put this down here in the scratch section. Okay, I think that's been mostly answered. Is there anything else here? Yeah, so I think the biggest questions are still around instances and then your party composition and how that stuff works. And I need to figure out how experience sharing works. I don't know if I already have this written down. May already have this written down. How does experience sharing work? All right. So yeah, how are you picking the instances? So if we pick the simplest possible solution, it could look something like this, where literally it's just, hey, there are level ranges for these, and you get an idea of what you're in for. You know, maybe there could be something that says like, I don't know, whatever, I'll just write something, it doesn't matter, the planes. And it could be like level, 23, lots of debuffing enemies, something like that. But still, all of this comes back to there are automated battles, and all you really care about as a player is getting a good enough result for anything that you do. Oh, you know what would be an interesting idea? Could be a better reward for completing an instance the first time. Hey, Ramy. How's it going? So yeah, big question. How do you pick which instance you're going to? And I'm concerned that since it's all about automated battling, that you'll just pick something that's good enough and run it over and over. Could be loads better. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But at least it's not, at least you're all right, you said. Well, let's see if we can pick up your mood with the stream and game design. We're now designing a game for Ramy, for nobody else. Sole player over there. Lack of sleep, stress of selling and buying a house, catching a flu. That is quite the combination of things. Yeah. How about this? I'll speak in very slow, low sentences, and I'll put you to sleep. I'll also put the rest of the audience to sleep. I also bit my tongue. Okay, that's on you. So yeah, this part about saying, hey, it's automated battling, you'll just pick something that's good enough and run it over and over. I think this is a real concern because there's probably going to be so much going on with the battles that you're just like, I don't know. There's not the strategy depth that you might need. And if we try playing to character strengths, it's not really a thing anymore because you have the party system. Even in the old style where you had, say, yeah, fire immune monsters, the party system may even all of that out. How can you mess up? I thought you had experience. When's the last time you bit your tongue? What if they're like, I've never bitten my tongue? What then, Ramy? I don't make mistakes. Well, then they're lying. Maybe. Yeah, this becomes quite difficult to try to figure out what we're doing here. Like the level of the instance would almost certainly matter regardless of the system. But then, yeah, how else are you making this choice? Maybe it's based on the loot you want. I don't know. People said in the prototype that all the battles felt the same. I don't know how we could address that. Well, without adding too much complexity. Yeah, I don't have any great ideas here. So, one of the ways I like kind of thinking about this is, what if you did cut out the complexity completely? What if it really just boiled down to what you see here, selected? Like you see a location, you see a level, and that's it. But then every region is kind of the same. Like there can be different enemies in it, and there could even just be fire immune enemies in this thing, and you just figure that out, I guess. What keyword am I using? Check this out. Oh, there you go. Thanks. Quite interesting. Yeah, yeah. And to be clear, that's the prototype. That is probably not very representative of what the game will be. And the big changes are in the today command. Well, let me just spew some thoughts here, I guess. If instances are just level ranges and inherently have different enemies, then I guess there'd be visual variety, but the battles would still sort of feel the same. So it would all come down to the power level of your characters. I guess, okay, there could be different lengths of instances. So maybe you need more sustain or healing for long ones. Relying on leveling up to heal. Yeah, there were a lot of things that were rough around the edges with the prototype. So leveling up to heal is totally fine. You will heal outside of battle. I think it takes about 14 seconds to go to full life. So different lengths of instances. I mean, there will naturally be different enemies and stuff. Yeah, I think this is, again, one of those like core issues that exist here. So problems with automated battles, you only control the inputs to the instance, which party members you have, yeah, which party members you bring to an instance. And then it'll be hard to make some parties better than others such that your choice matters. Players probably just want something that's good enough in the end. And there was something else that was pretty important that I wanted to write here. Oh yeah, you don't, I guess even if we had a system of feedback, it would probably be tedious to wade through. I'm on the TV now. I command Ramey's living room. Take that, world. Anyway, I'm getting this feeling because, and every time that this has happened in the past, it's been, hey, this system is not a good system. Does this point to some system being bad? This might work as a streamer game. That is the direction I do not want to take this in. Hey, Krasner. I'm not saying it won't work as a streamer game. It's just that's a direction where now you're marketing at streamers and you've automatically cut down on how many people you could have play this game by like a factor of, 30 or 50 or something like that. Kind of eerie how big your head is now. I'm gonna zoom out thanks to Raimi. Or maybe it just points to this being the state of the game. Like, yeah, sure, battles don't really matter much. They're just fun to look at. Yeah, I don't have another idea or solution for this. Again, to get everybody on board here, in this game, it's got automated battles. And the question I was trying to figure out is like, how are you picking where you're battling? And so in the original game, the way that this was supposed to work is you would have only solo players. So like, this is my mage. It'll never be a mage and a warrior. It's always just a mage. And so the mage itself has certain skills like Fire Blast, Lightning, and Boulder. And so these all do elemental damage. So if you come across something that is resistant to elemental damage, then it's like, well, the mage probably shouldn't be there because they won't do a very good job. Or maybe the mage has only area of effect attacks, and so they're really good against many enemies, but not very good against single enemies. So those are some obvious trade-offs you have when there's a single character. But now we're talking about making this into a more party-based game. So it's like, hey, any shortcomings you have as this character can be overcome by strengths of another character. So now you put a mage together with a warrior, and now the single target enemies will get killed by the warrior, and the mage can take on the groups. So when you have a party like that, all this stuff is going to kind of even out. But since the battles are automated, you don't get the natural flow that you get from other games where you have party systems, because there can still be shortcomings in the form of, well, some things are hard to do, or they're harder to position, or you need to form a build around all of this. And I think this is going to play into pretty much anything. It also plays into character progression. You'll just end up caring about the overall power of a character, since you don't control battles. Nice warm sunny weather this weekend. Today can't even open my door. Oh, man. Yeah, yesterday we went on a really long walk and it was fantastic weather, excellent views. It was just amazing. Perhaps it should be that part of the game to actually set up the automation. Have you ever looked into multi-boxing? So I haven't ever done multi-boxing, and the way I understand it is that it's, like one keyboard controlling many computers, basically, because otherwise it's way too hard to still like control your characters. But setting up the automation, I am very much trying to steer away from as well, because this is what Botland was all about, was like granular control over your automation. In Botland, you actually wrote out scripts that said exactly what to do. And I have a lot of strong thoughts about this that boil down to, one, you will still come up with something that is good enough. You'll have a script where it's like, yeah, do this stuff, and like, who cares? Because optimizing this is not necessarily fun. You need like a debugger to figure out if your if statements are even working properly, or you need to simplify it all into just a priority system. And it's like, at that point, I think a lot of players just don't even want to engage with that. So yeah, setting up systems to support multiple characters. Yeah. Yeah. Is that Google Blockly? This is Blockly, yeah. Although this game also had JavaScript in it too. Hey, Paul. Happen to photograph any strangers on a bench? No, I didn't, but I did get a picture. I can't show you. We ran into a cat, but my wife is in that picture, so I can't show you that. But we got some fantastic views of just the area in general. Like, look at this. This is amazing. This is just like, we just walked there. Okay, so is this a problem? And so, it's pretty clear, right? If not, then who cares? And if so, then how do we solve it? But I don't even have an answer to this question yet. Like, is it a problem that because this game is automated, you will run into issues like this where it's like, hey, how do you pick the next instance you want to go to? I don't know, just do it based on level. And another thing I guess we could say is maybe instances have a cooldown time before you can run them again. Well, maybe I'll say the portals to instance have a cooldown time before you can run them again. That way you need to bury where you go. Maybe. I wouldn't say I was successful at all of those things. This is kind of interesting, at least. I want to write this down. I don't know if this solves anything, but yeah. So yeah, what do I think? Is this a problem? I think to some extent, I think this is inherent to having automated battles. I don't think there's a way you can fix this without getting control over battles or having the battles play out so slowly that you see what's going on, but you need some way of fixing it. Yeah, and it's only these inputs that you have here. We could add some manual control to a battle, but then that's how you would be interacting with the hardest battles. is by taking control or otherwise applying some influence. Let's look at the feedback one more time. Did I get any more? No, I didn't. Okay. And that's totally fine. There's a ray of sunshine on my head. I don't think that's sunshine you're seeing. I think that's just the lights in the room. Oh, in your room on my virtual head. Okay. Yes. Ramey's very sick, everybody. Just let him have this one. Let's turn off Dark Reader so I can actually see where these pieces of feedback. Yeah, it's sunshine on your TV, right? Yep, the flu. Definitely the flu. Okay, so abilities. What we're looking for here is what people said about controlling battles. And what they basically said is like, hey, I want to influence how my characters use abilities. But I'm kind of changing this system altogether. Hey, Broken Crown. Harder than it should be to connect. That shouldn't be a problem anymore. This doesn't matter too much. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Hey, Timon. Happy April 15th Fool. Every day in April is going to be April Fool's Day. Random spawns, music, health system. It needs more identity. Well, thanks, Brutarius. Yeah, thanks for checking it out. Tomorrow is the day I should hit 4,000 watch hours on YouTube, or maybe the next day, in which case I can start earning ad revenue. And then you watching that video would have earned me like a penny or something. Oh man, yeah. This is definitely the heart of this stuff. And I'm inclined to say that this isn't a problem. It's the core of the game and we find a way to make it work. No, you don't have to watch again or load up a playlist or anything. Also, the way that watch hours are calculated is that it's 5 days behind. So you would have had to help me get to this sooner, you would have had to watch more videos like 4 days ago, or the last 4 days worth of stats wouldn't get me to 4,000, and then watching today would help. But yeah, just don't worry about it anyway. It's more like a terminal text-based game. You mean because that's all I'm doing is typing into? No, you mean because it's all automated anyway? Yeah, if you both get time machines, I think maybe we can make this work. Core of the game, we find a way to make it work. Yeah. Yeah, all the typing. I don't know. It's hard to say how people will feel about this sort of thing. Yeah, I want to write this stuff into here though. All right, let's turn on Dark Reader again. A Moria style game? I'm not familiar with that. How does that work? Okay, yeah. The only inputs you control are set before the battle even starts. I just probably want something that's good enough in the end. So even if a fire mage is up against fire immune enemies, they probably won't care too much. I think that nothing was automated part though changes this completely. Like if you manually controlled these battles, I don't think there would be a problem because we could very clearly give you choices. Like, hey, this ability is the most powerful, but it costs the most mana. Or this ability has a really long cooldown, so use it only when you're sure you need it. Those sorts of things are fine in a non-automated game, and they're clear decisions and you understand the trade-off as a player. When you automate those things, now you don't have inputs during the battle. So you essentially, it's like putting a marble on a track. The only time you actually control it is right when you let go. And like letting go here versus like over here on a different track entirely could change the path of the marble. But once it's running, it's just like it's running. And you don't really have the feedback from how it ran down that track of like, did I need to push it with more force or did I need to put it in a different part of the track? That's kind of what I'm getting at here, is that you'll start these battles and something will happen. And all you really care about as a player is, am I winning enough? And ideally you want to win 100% of the time. And you can practically guarantee that if you just go to lower level zones. And all of this is just to earn items for your shop to be selling. So it's like, it's kind of a secondary system at this point. Did it revitalize me? It helped a lot, but it was still a work week. So I was doing a bunch of stuff and I'm glad I took it. I took care of a lot of different things. And I did a bunch of game design and that's what led us to where we are now. Hey, Visitronic, I'm doing well. It learns based on your tendencies when you play, something down the line probably. No. The point is for this to just be like, battles will always be automated. There is no learning from you because you don't manually control battles. Did I celebrate? Cookies, was it? I did end up getting a cookie and it was very good. So yeah, I did end up celebrating. It was nice. Yeah, Smoo, I'm glad. And I think this will lead to a much better game. And I'm just currently grappling with some questions and we'll oh wow, I gotta take a break actually. Yeah, we'll work through all this. The new design gives me a tech boss looking for consultants vibe. Yeah, that's kind of how I thought about it. Like even I don't think you can read this because I don't think it's in a document you have access to, but here's what I planned on for the start of the game. You start with enough money to build a building. So imagine you build a blacksmith. And then building it causes a few NPC customers to start appearing in the entrance portal. So like your town has some portal where customers come in and they see your blacksmith shop. And so they go over there and they buy whatever starter items you have. Maybe you start with like 4 swords or something. So they buy a couple of them. Then an adventurer walks through the portal and they say something like, hey, I see you're running low on wares. Like I can help you fix that. I can go battle for you. So you hire them. And because you're not playing as them, that's where the automated aspect comes in. They're like, I'm going to work for you. I'm going to go battle where you want me to battle. And they start funneling items back to you. So you send them in the portal, they send back items, and yeah. So I like this. I think this is like a flavorful way of starting a game. Like you have a dream of starting a shop and you start by building your first building and people are already buying things, but you run out of items and you're not an adventurer. So you can't go get items yourself, but you hire somebody. Anyway, I'll be back in a little bit. I got to take a break. I think it's good to keep, thinking about this stuff, recharging my brain. So I'll just write where I left off, figuring out whether it's a problem that battles are automated and how that impacts abilities and instances. Yeah. Yeah, unlocking character slots would just be you hiring them probably. But we'll talk about this more when I get back. So is it jump time? It's jump time. Oh yeah, another thing that was added, and Darkstorm did this stuff. Like if I join, I think jumping now, yeah, it makes a little smoke thing appear at your character. So if I do like U5 here, you see that little white particle effect there? Jumped up and fell, didn't land back where I jumped from. Was it like right at the edge of a platform? Closed the game. So I think where you would just report them is through here. Yeah, on the edge. Yeah, I think that's a known issue. Is it haunting me at random times from hearing it so many times? Oh man, I'm sorry. Yeah. All right, so let's see. Where did I leave off of this? Yeah, figuring out what there's a problem to have that battles are automated and how that impacts abilities and instances. Um, I think the only way. Yeah. Yeah, I see, Smooth. Okay, you know what? Let me not type everything. Let's just think about this for a sec. So the way that this was handled in Botland is that you had rounds. And in between those rounds, you could change things. This is also how it works in other auto battlers. So yeah, most auto battlers solve this by allowing for input in between battles. Could something like that work? So maybe you choose to rest or to, I don't know, swap abilities or something. But this still suggests that you'll actually watch the battle. And I just don't think this will be the case. That's a good theme. Okay, good. Yeah. All right. I didn't know haunting meant bad in that case. Usually it does. Yeah, I just don't think there's really anything easy to be done here and keep automated battles. And I want to keep automated battles. But maybe we should explore the alternative. What if we did have manual battles? And yeah, if we did, there'd have to be a reason. The obvious reason is that you could battle better than an AI could, or a simplistic AI. But then the entire combat system isn't built around that. Changes you make between rounds in those games are usually just positions of your team and slight buffs and food you can apply. I don't think you have any more than that. I don't think you have any of that. Yeah, and in Botland, it was just positioning your bot. Well, I guess you could change kind of everything, but yeah, mostly it was positioning of stuff. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, should party position matter? Should party position matter? Maybe in the... Actually, that could be kind of interesting. Maybe a character in the front row gets to use all of their abilities. And a character in the back row only gets to use one. Then repositioning could matter. I still think you'd hit the good enough problem. Is the point of automation to turn the game into more of a management sim? The point of automation was to have it so that you don't have to play through straightforward battles. And I like the concept of it. So there's like a couple of things there, I guess. Like hide your healers in the back. Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about here, although this could do very different things. Hey, Gluskup. So I always think of Ogre Battle 64 positioning, because this is kind of the system that I'm thinking about here. Is there something that says what... Something that says what these characters do? If I search for Sword Master, is it not even called that? Fencer? Class Fencer. Here we go. Yeah. Okay, so this part right here that you see, it says attacks. If you were in the front row, you would slash twice. If you were in any other row, you would only slash once. So your positioning mattered. and you only had so many slots in each row. And if we, search for other ones here, yeah, most of them did more stuff in the front row. This one was better in the back row. So the wizard did more elemental attacks in the back row. This would change what type of attacks. You did melee attacks in the front row, but then you do elemental magic in the back row. So like your position within this 3x3 grid would matter in this particular game. That's the only reason I brought this up. And there's no reason why it can't be that way in this game. You could have something like, hey, your archer character's in the back, so it's actually going to shoot 3 times. And so now the way that you lay out your party will matter. However, I still think you'll just lay out your party once, and it just, that's that. And so the way that Ogre Battle made this interesting is, again, if you picture this 3x3 area right here, so now picture that this is just a square. You could rotate it if you were fighting in a depending how you started the battle. So like right now the archer's in the back row, but if you rotate it twice, they're now in the front row on the bottom here, or front column. Sorry, I'm probably making this confusing for anyone who's ever played these games. So he's saying row and column backwards. Anyway, imagine this character's down here now that they might do something different. And so it's like, we could have that work in this game. Right now, this dungeon goes left to right, but like it could go that your characters move to the right and they're in the same order, and maybe they move up and now they're in a different order. But I still don't think that's a very interesting system. So yeah. Need to fight something once and beat it in order to run it in idle mode. The problem is right now the battle system has no room for manual control. So the way it works is that abilities are used as soon as they're ready. There is no concept of mana or energy. So if you were the one controlling it, a button would light up green and you would click it, and that's the only decision you should ever make. If a button is green, click it, because it is a good thing to do always. So yeah, there's no room for manual control in that. You'd strictly be playing worse than an AI would. There's no choice. You need choice for it to be an interesting manual control game. If anything, this adds more gameplay without too much complexity. I think it adds complexity. And I think it adds complexity in even little ways. So for example, right now, like click an instance and you would see a dialogue like this. Do you want your mage to go? Do you want your warrior to go? And do you want your, necromancer to go? In the future, we'd have to show you the battle layout, and you would have to say, okay, I want my warrior here and I want my mage here. That alone would need to tell you, like, why are you putting these here? Oh, because they only use certain abilities. Okay, well then what are their abilities? And like already the UI gets more complicated. Then when they're in battles, you have to pay attention to like, are they doing the thing they were supposed to do more? We could maybe come up with other ways, like there are other party synergies or something like that. So yeah, I don't think adding manual control. Oh yeah, arrays and math. Yeah. From a technical perspective, it is pretty straightforward. Based on your position in the battle, we have you do certain things differently. And yeah, I could see that being easy to code. Yeah. Yeah, so with this positioning thing, it's like, imagine if you played Ogre Battle. I want to show the battle screen in the game. Yeah, so here's how this system would work out. You have this 3x3 grid. And so we see a skeleton is in the back row, and there they are. They're in the back of the battle. And then we see a mage and a lich or something like that, another mage, and they're in the front row. And then on your team, we see this like paladin characters in the front, and we see your cleric is in the back. So anyway, these 3x3 grids were very important, and you actually didn't control these battles. They were automated, but they were very short, and actually you wouldn't even reposition the characters after a battle, right? Although you did have these manual actions. I forgot what these did. One of them was like an elemental attack. Maybe running was one of them. I don't know what that first one was. I don't remember. Would this be interesting, I guess, if I was like, hey, your healer is in the back, so all they're doing is healing, and when they're in the front, they do something more than healing? I guess teaching this system wouldn't be too bad. And the good enough problem that you run into is like, I guess you are finding a party composition you like. I don't know. I don't think I should worry about this. I think we should try to just, what's the simplest thing moving forward? The simplest thing moving forward is just that the speed at which you battle probably matters the most. So you're optimizing for that. Okay, so I think it's a good idea to have something in my back pocket for if this isn't fun. And I think what we could write is that uh, if if it turns out to not be fun, we could maybe add a positioning system. If it turns out that battles aren't fun, we could consider a positioning system for parties like Ogre Battle 64. Healers in the back row may only use heal abilities, whereas in the front row, maybe they do melee attacks. Yeah. Is there something I haven't explored here, though? There probably is. Also, something else I just thought of. This whole concept of like, how many abilities do you have? Yeah. Or we just make it so that you have an auto attack if you're on your own. I don't know. I had to figure that out. So okay, I don't want to add in manual control. That was one of the things that I determined. Conclusions. Don't want manual control mid battle. Getting some kind of manual control between battles could be interesting. Diamond, what? Howdy. All right, I think that's the other big consideration. Consider, where was it? Having a way of changing, influencing your group between battles in a dungeon. Healing them, buffing them, etc. I just don't think any of this is going to matter still. I think when the game is automated, you'll just kind of watch it play out. And the only reason you would probably care more is, I guess, if you were dying a lot. But then if there's any penalty for dying, then you would do even more to go to lengths to not die. I know that seems pretty straightforward, but like, I guess games that have the highest death penalty are hardcore games. You die and your character is done. You cannot play that character anymore. So in those games, you play essentially as safely as possible. And playing safely generally doesn't mean playing in the most fun way. Like, you're probably not going to take on 400 enemies at a time in the hopes that you beat them, because maybe it's a 30% chance you die. And then, like, well, that's the end of your character. So you're not going to risk 30%, right? This doesn't sit perfectly well with me. I'm still not totally convinced. How about roguelikes? Roguelike means generally a few things. So I think you'd probably need to narrow it down. But what I take it to mean is generally randomization is a big component of it. And then like dying just means a chance to upgrade more permanently. Well, dying can mean a chance to upgrade more permanently. These are kind of the things I think. And I think there's almost always, like, roguelikes need replayability. There's a lot of players that do like not dying challenges, but they should be opt-in. Yeah, and I don't think it makes sense in an automated game. Like, if you're not controlling the battles, then all it would mean is that you're fighting the weakest enemies you ever can at all times. Is roguelike different from roguelite? Because I've always treated them as the same thing. Anyway, my point with this though is that like we can randomize enemies and stuff, but I don't know what we'd be randomizing about your characters. Dying on your character is like maybe you still got items and you're all just selling these anyway. And then the replayability is something else to consider here, which is in a lot of games with manual control, it's like, oh, hey, the level is different, or the enemies are different, or the guns I'm getting are different. Those are all fun things for a player to experience, but when it's automated out, it doesn't matter too much. 50 kilograms or so. One rogue. I guess a rogue would probably weigh about 50 kilograms. Random things each time, so it's not hardcore, but still has a focus on not dying. Yeah, I don't know what the random things would be in this game. And I'm not. Yeah, I need to think about that a little bit more. I guess the other thing we could maybe do here. I'm kind of coming down to the. With what's designed now, probably comes down to how quickly you can complete dungeons and get loot, since the loot is pretty much the main point. Hardcore permadeath, light is upgrades that apply to your character when you try again, but inventory's gone, etc. I see. Okay. All right. I'm probably not going to internalize that difference, although for the sake of this conversation, I'll try to. But yeah, I don't see a roguelike or roguelite kind of thing working for this game, either one, because I don't think the randomization and replayability is what really would be there. If you ask some people the difference in rogue, like, and light, it's like asking the difference in Java and JavaScript. I mean, the difference between Java and JavaScript is like factual. there are no opinions there. Let's implement breaking items. Actually, breaking items in this game would probably be fine because you run an item shop. So like they just get automatically replaced, and it'd probably be a decent system, but I know what you mean. Okay, yeah, let's try this out. I am not totally sold, and I guess I'll just write down that I'm not totally sold, but that this is as good as we've got for right now. I'm still not totally sold on battles. And I want to write maybe these conclusions over here. On the battle system and its impact on choosing which dungeon to go into, or which party members or which characters to put into a party. So with automated battles, the only inputs you control are set before the battle even starts. This means that you have very little influence over the outcome of a fight beyond party composition. Yeah. Probably always opt for power and speed of completing dungeons over anything else. Unbreakable items aren't good for business. This brings up an interesting point, which is what I just write down, because I like almost immediately lost this, whatever I had. Oh no, what was it? Oh, I don't remember, man. Am I typing using the corn? Yeah, you can see it on screen here. What you see me typing on is the corn. Yeah. There was some important conclusion from this, though. I don't remember. Something about putting party members together. I don't know. All right. Well, I guess like I said, I don't have a super compelling answer for this. So how are you picking instances? The the problem that I think people are going to have is that this is going to feel very samey the whole time. You're going to pick an instance and it's going to be like, well, what was the difference between the forest and the cave, or the cave and the magma mountain, or whatever? And it's going to come down to, well, they're different enemies, but all that gets smoothed out by the battle system. Penalty or reward. Man. I'm so torn. I'm so torn on all of this. Yeah, and I guess I'll write here, we don't necessarily have to make it clear. You could learn by running the instance. Okay, I did think of something that could be kind of interesting, which is what what does death mean with instances? What if your party had some number of attempts in the instance and the enemies had persistent life values? So maybe for harder instances, there's... What does this mean, though? Yeah, maybe for harder instances, you're expected to die a few times. Each attempt number could decrease the loot that you get. What does it even do, though? With no rewards but experience. Yeah, and I think that's a simpler way of doing this. And honestly, I think I'm adding complexity for reasons that aren't good. And maybe we just need to get to the point where we're prototyping this and being like, all right, here are all the portals you can go to. And yeah, people are going to them and they're figuring out whether, I don't know, it's interesting for them. Fun part of the last iteration for me is trying to kill the high level enemies, and either I die and I grind a bit more, or switch some skills around, or you barely win and it feels good. Deciding when to try a new enemy group was fun. Yeah, so that worked because you had single characters in that version. But in this new version, we're talking about having parties. And once you have parties, I think it's harder to understand why you'd fight group A versus group B, because parties start evening out all of the strengths and weaknesses. Yeah. Anyway, I don't think we need to do this stuff. I think we need to just come up with kind of simpler things here. Remember, try to have simple answers to these questions. I shouldn't just keep piling systems on. So I think having a cooldown for a portal is fine. So you're not just running the same thing over and over and over again. Also, I guess it depends on how long instances even take. Yeah, and maybe you're basing it on what loot they have. Okay, so you would choose an instance based on the level of the monsters that are in it, and maybe some preview of the expected loot. Yeah. Portals would can have a cooldown. People tend to keep spamming the same ones. That way they have to branch out. Yep. Okay, great. I mean, I think I've answered enough of these now. So, yeah, the part about changing parameters of an instance, I think we could just have different instances for that. There could just be something where it's like, hey, enemies here are all stronger than normal, but they're the same level as they were. So you're not leveling up more from it. But I think that can just remain an idea for now. What's the penalty or reward for finishing an instance? So what I was thinking that would be kind of cool is whenever you win a battle, so imagine in the instance that you're seeing something like this. This is one battle room and you're in it. So you're in the first battle. And then eventually your characters beat all these other characters and you walk through the door and you get into... Darn, I'm getting a phone call. I'll let this go to voicemail for now. Yeah, your characters finish this, and then you go into the next room. But now imagine there's like 3 other rooms after that. So every battle can maybe earn you some items and experience points. But then when you get to the final one, there'd be some like bonus items or experience. Because I think it'd be nice to see you getting items immediately. Yeah. I don't know. Whatever. This could always be changed later. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. Each battle you win can earn you some items and experience. And beating the entire dungeon can earn a bonus. Well, I'll just say bonus items and experience. And then losing a battle means what? You get ejected from the instance? Losing a battle can just mean getting ejected from the instance and having that portal be on cooldown. Yeah, I think that's a good enough penalty. Although that penalty can be pretty rough if you have no other instance to go to. Maybe a lower cooldown than normal so that you don't get locked out. Is it turn-based? It's just whenever an ability is ready, it gets used. So it's not really turns, no. Some games have temporary bonuses after each room, something like heal 10% HP or 10% attack for the rest of the instance. Yeah, but then there's got to usually be a way for you to like figure out that there are those bonuses. Like imagine you have a dungeon that's laid out like this. You have some linear rooms, but then you've got some rooms that are like off to the side. And maybe there's like one room here too, and a room here. Anyway, something like this. So it's like you start here, and maybe you end here. Whoops, E for end. And maybe this is like a bonus room, like B equals buff or something like that. So you would be able to see this map, let's say, and you'd be able to make the choice of, do I fight in 2 extra rooms in order to get this buff, or do I just go straight to the end? But if the room just randomly grants it, then there's no choice, and like that could totally happen here. Anyway, my point is that wait a second. I just thought of something. Maybe that's what you're choosing. Yeah. Maybe you're choosing what room to go into after a battle. Maybe a dungeon is really a map in itself, and you choose which room to go into after a battle. It could always be no more than 3 choices. Like heal, bonus treasure, or a dungeon-wide buff, maybe. Yeah, kind of like Slay the Spire is what I was thinking. Well, I haven't played Slay the Spire, but I think I know how that map system works. Okay, that could be more interesting. You're at least having some influence. Yeah, I think something like this has to happen. And maybe the choices can always be the same three. So first we could just have I played Clash of Clans? I have not, no. Yeah, I guess something like this where you can plan out a path. I mean, the dungeons wouldn't be probably super intense, and you'd see some benefits along the way. Yeah, at first we could just have these three choices be after every room, but eventually there could be a map system where you can plan a course, and it may change based on the enemies you fight. Maybe you even see room modifiers like fire immune enemies. Yeah. Okay. You make the rooms randomly generated and it's turn based and it's run based. It's not going to be permadeath. And I think any like many games can have similarities without you being in the same genre exactly. The way I always kind of say this is like Minecraft and Tetris both have blocks, but that doesn't make them similar games really. And so it's like you can have randomly generated rooms and it not at all resembling like a roguelike game. But regardless, those are just like classifiers. They're almost like marketing terms. It doesn't really matter if you call it roguelike or not. What matters at the end is like, are people having fun and are they buying the game? That's pretty much it. Play the prototype was pretty fun, lots of potential. Yeah, thank you, Lan, for it. I am designing the new version of this, and I wonder how you feel about these overall changes, which are described here at the top. Yeah. So here are the overall changes. I'll leave these on the screen for a little bit so you can read them if you want to, but I'll also just paste the document in here. So yes, I think this is what I'll say. Let me put this over here. We'll instead of considering that we change anything else crazy with battles, I think it's this that we would do. Yeah. We should consider a map system like Slay the Spire. The simplest possible form could be a choice after every X rooms that says heal, buff for the rest of the dungeon, or, well, choose between heal, buff for the rest of the dungeon, or extra loot, or the promise of extra loot if you win the dungeon. The more complex form would be planning which enemies you take on. They could even have modifiers like plus 10% life or plus 50% fire resistance. Yeah. These systems, by the way, of like pick how enemies get upgraded is sort of interesting because you're picking the least of all the evils in those cases. All right. I'm happy enough with this as a conclusion. Like we have a mitigation. And I think that at the very least, this now makes it so that the instances that you go through could have some interest to them. I think when it comes to abilities, we're still going to have some issues there. I don't need that open. I don't need this stuff open. Okay. All right, so the penalty or reward, did I talk about these? I think so. Yeah, I don't think we need to better system for this. Just some observations. Yeah, feel free to share them through the feedback form, Shoseki. That's probably a lot easier. And that way you don't end up typing out a whole bunch of stuff that I then need to copy paste elsewhere. You can just submit them right through the form. And you should find it right on the same page. Well, I guess not the same page, but if you go back on itch, you'll find a form right there. It says, please provide your feedback there. So that would be really good. Please do consider doing that. Yeah, cool. So what else? This is fine. How do we make it clear which enemies? I don't even think we need to do this really. Just you'll face some enemies. Yeah, instance dungeons. So you don't necessarily have to be able to see which enemies you'll fight. You can learn that by doing the instance. Rationale, I don't think this information will help most players. I think it's mostly the level that'll matter. All right, cool. So maybe you have only so much space for portals, so you have to manage which ones you want. Yeah, this idea, I want to mock up a town at some point, and I don't know if we have graphics for that. Do we? I don't have like town graphics. No, there's no real buildings. I guess I have to craft them myself. Yeah, abilities being used as soon as they're ready. Yeah. And I mocked that up, by the way, and I think it's great. So like here is this being mocked up. If I get into a battle, you'll see I don't touch anything. And it just use Fire Blast, Fire Blast. It's like, it's clear what's happening, and it's I think a little bit more fun to watch. Although we need battles to stay around. All right, this I don't think is necessarily a good idea. I was going to start to kind of mock this up. Do we have something where I can kind of draw out a house, I guess? I don't know. Let's just sort of imagine something here. Let's say we have... I'm spending too long on a decision that doesn't matter. Okay, let's just pick something. Let's pick this. All right, so we'll put this up here. And we'll pick the rectangle tool. All right, so let's say this ends up being your town square. And then we do this, and this, and this. Okay, so here's your town square. And what was I doing this for? Oh yeah, the space for portals. Okay, so you'd have some shops. So imagine if we just say that these treasure chests are shops. So you have like a blacksmith and a potion seller and whatever else. And so these are shops that you have, and maybe you've placed a few more of these on the side. And then you have some room for portals. And what I was kind of thinking is like, we could limit the space you have. So here I've drawn out, what, 12? And these are just the 12 portals you have the option of going to. And if you want a new portal, you need to be like, all right, let me destroy one of these and put a new one in. So maybe this one's to the forest zone and this one's to, you know, the end game boss. But you wouldn't ever need both of them probably. And to be honest, I don't think this is a system I should be thinking about right now. Like, if there's a problem with you having too many or whatever, then fine. But otherwise, just to have it so that you can have as many portals as you need. So if there are 40 zones in the game, you have 40 spaces for portals. So yeah, I don't think this is all that interesting. We gotta remember this thing. Just try to have simple answers to questions. Played an idle game similar to this, where you have a shop and adventure, come to buy your stuff, and then go dungeoneering, try to look it up. Yeah, I think the concept has been done before, and I think the way that I'll like my take on it will be a little bit different. Why not one center portal and a dialogue to select where you're portaling to? Yeah, that could be done as well. It could be that you're essentially like augmenting a main portal. I think either way, it's like the functional aspect of this is all that really matters, which is like, do you have an easy way of picking where you're going? And as long as that's the case, I think we're fine. You said you're done filling out the form. I'll go take a look. So yeah, here's the new response. I guess we just need to scroll down to the bottom here. And then do this so I can actually read it. Wait, no, is it at the top? I don't actually know. Let me try something else here. Go to individual responses and maybe just look at the last one. Balance between single and groups. Sometimes groups were much tougher than single or two enemies. Okay, I think this is it. I think I'd like to be able to highlight particular spells to prioritize them. Okay, yeah. Um, these the balancing between single and groups, like we're gonna have parties of player characters, so I don't think that'll be as stark of a difference as it is now between single players and groups. And then the highlighting particular spells, there won't be any manual control over battles whatsoever. So I think that's gonna go away. But thank you for providing the feedback and thank you for playing it. Left a giant message in the group. Forgot to tag you, so you can check it before stream. Oh, I saw it. I have it open right now actually, and I've kind of I've been kind of talking about it a little bit. And why won't this work? And I was gonna get back to you at some point today if you weren't in the stream. But hi, Darkstorm. So yeah, Darkstorm had shared some thoughts here. One was about music, which I need to just consider music at some point. Another is maybe not maximizing the town screen. I totally could see that. Like you don't need to maximize the town. I was thinking what happens when you don't have any dungeons running. Oh, so Shoseki, just to be clear, if you were to go fight in the level 1 zone, you will only need to fight, I think, 100 battles to level up. So technically there's no max level. You can just keep leveling up higher and higher and higher. So it's all how many hundreds of battles do you want to fight? But yeah, once enemies, I think, are 5 levels lower than you, then it's identical pretty much to you fighting in the starter zone. So at that point, all enemies are the same and you might as well just go to the starter zone. But that's just because of prototype experience. Max levels like 2 to the 32. I think it's actually much larger than that. Godot max int size. Yeah, it's you would not have enough time in the universe to be able to get to this level. Yeah, so this I don't think is important. I think just whatever, you always have space for portals. And maybe you have to limit how many of these that you get. Did I write that there's a maximum? Buildings which sell stuff. Buildings can be moved but not destroyed. Yeah, there should probably be a maximum number each kind of building. Right, yeah. And so portals are the exception here. At least to start with, the maximum number of portals should just be the maximum number of zones that exist. Also, we don't necessarily have to represent them all individually. Although if there are cooldowns, that can help you see at a glance which portals are accessible. We could use a single mega portal. What if you can skip battles but still get the loot if your level is high enough compared to the enemies? You know, I've seen some games do this, but usually they're manually controlled. I think skipping battles in an automated game doesn't make a lot of sense because participating in the battles is almost like skipping them if you're going to win anyway. Exponential experience increase to get to the next level would destroy your progress to max level. No, the way that it works is you always are granted, I think, 1% of how much you need per fight. So it would just be 100 times whatever that gigantic number was. This. So just, that's how many battles you would need to do. And I mean, we could try to figure out how long it would take, right? If we say like, 5 seconds per battle or the respawn time or whatever. And so it's really this times 10 and it's this many like seconds to hit max level. And I don't know what this is. Seconds to years. It's, yeah, 292 trillion years. So if you've got that much time on your hands, be my guest. Go get to max level. But for everyone else, probably don't want to attempt that little quest. Might be a bit too difficult. Yeah, BRB. I contest the R part. Be right back. If you're level 20 as an example and fighting in the starter zone where the max level is 3 maybe. Yeah, yeah. You just wouldn't really have a reason to go to the starter zone. The other thing to consider, by the way, don't forget about all of this, is that battles are really just conduits for items. So like if you fight a level 1 bat, maybe you get like a rusty sword. And then if you fight a level 20 whatever goblin, maybe you're getting something like an iron sword. So hang on one sec. Excuse me. So do you even need rusty swords by the time you have iron swords? And I don't know how much these sell for, but maybe this sells for like 3 gold and maybe this sells for like 50 gold. So at that point, it's like, yeah, it's still something, but is it worthwhile? Probably not. Excuse me. Yeah, well, I just so happen to be a rusty sword collector. Yeah, you will be the rusty sword collector then. We'll call you. We'll add an NPC to the game. Raimi, the rusty sword buyer, and he always comes by and is like, "I want 100 rusty swords. I will pay top dollar for these." All right, so where we leave off here. So this part, and then maybe you craft the world you're going into, like picking things. This I want to hold off on too. I like the idea of a map that you can kind of control. What are your thoughts on no experience penalty if you're over leveled? I mentioned mobs always giving the same amount. When you level up, you already need more. That feels like a double penalty to reduce the experience. So I think this kind of comes down to play testing to figure out, because let's say the low level instances take you like, I don't know, 20 seconds to make it through. If every 20 seconds you need to queue up that instance again, then it's probably not so bad. But if there's a way to like auto run instances, then we probably do need a double penalty, because otherwise you'll like kind of bypass the point of the game, I guess. But I don't know. Like I said, I think the important part is just we'll figure it out in play testing. So yeah, I think we'll have to give it a shot and see. But it is one of the questions I want to talk about at some point. The experience per monster would be way different anyway. From the prototype, yeah. From each other, it might not be as different. But we'll have to figure all those sorts of things out. The nice thing is figuring out an experience system doesn't change usually the entire game. So I'm not super concerned about like nailing it down at the very beginning. And I know you commented on this too, like we could just come up with different formulas for this. So yeah, I'm not too worried about that. The thing I was more worried about, which we talked about a little bit today, but I'll kind of sum up right now, is battles are automated and you're picking where to fight. And so like, how do we make that interesting? So it's like once you've picked, the dungeon is on autopilot. And so the conclusion is at first just play test and see how it goes. And if there's a problem, then maybe add a map system like Slay the Spire, or even a simplified system where you get a choice after every X rooms in a dungeon, like heal, buff for the rest of the dungeon, or get some treasure. Well, get some loot. So something like that. And that on its own can already be like, oh, cool. Now I feel like I've got some choice and I'm influencing these, even though it's not a direct choice. Like you have a rat in the starter zone with 10 experience, and the next one there's a bat with 50 experience. Yeah. Yeah. What is the size of a sprite square in your game? I think it's 24 by 24 right now, but I don't know if these are going to be the final graphics. I got to figure out why that happens too. All right. Yeah. Also, I think making bosses be larger or something like that, I think could be kind of interesting. It's like clear this is the end of the dungeon that you're going to be in. Where'd I put that town thing? Yeah, this. We need some town graphics at some point. Oh, are you trying to draw your Raimi the Rusty Sword collector? Okay. Yeah, we have a bunch more of these to work through. I think it's almost break time. Yeah, I think let's take a break then, and then let's try to figure out some of these other questions. This is going to be most of how this week goes. We'll probably do some mock-ups at some point too. But I want to get to the point where I'm like, I'm pretty confident that this is going to be a fun game because we have the prototype behind us now. All right, so I'll be back in a little bit. Is it jump time? It's jump time. Hey, everybody. Close the game. All right, so what is next? May need to change entire classes to be designed around meeting a specific need. So now there can be healers, tanks, DPS, hybrids. Before every character need to play all the roles. If they're groups, you don't want too many abilities, healers, etc. Okay, so here's kind of what I'm thinking for the game progression. Is like the start of the game, you have one character one ability, and one instance choice, and like one shop, and that's it. And then early on, play as a non-class. No, I think it's okay to just have you play as, like, it could even be the starter adventure that's given to you, like an adventure you, I don't know, you maybe grow out of or something even, or it could just be the warrior or something, or maybe you choose at the beginning and all the choices at the beginning are balanced for the beginning of the game. I'm not sure, but anyway, early on you get I guess like more instances and more characters, but maybe not more abilities yet. And so you start making parties of 2 characters at a time at some point. Yeah. And then later on, you may unlock more abilities. So those parties of 2 are getting much stronger. And then later on, you get even more characters and larger party sizes. So, what was the question we're trying to answer here? Usually I copy paste it down below, but I didn't, I guess, this time. Oh yeah, so designing the classes. So how do we design the classes? And we have a couple of different ways. The prototype way was that each class could equip different abilities to overcome, I guess, to be more situationally powerful. This can't really work anymore because you have the party system. So I think it would be too many choices. Yeah. So another way, I guess I'll just say option number 1 could be you have dedicated roles for characters. E.g., there is a healer that doesn't do very much on their own, but it could really help a party with a tank, for example. Option number 2, we lightly have roles. E.g., there's a healer, but the healing they do is sort of minimal. And there's a tank, but the tanking they do is to, maybe like mitigate some damage and take every 4th attack for someone. Option number 3. I mean, I think it's kind of these 2 options. Option number 3, I guess, we don't have classes at all and just let you pick which abilities to learn. Option number 4, or well, I guess it's like 3A. 3, we don't have classes at all. And just let you pick which abilities to learn. 3B would be and randomly give you choices of abilities to learn. All right, I'm leaning toward 1 or 2. Yeah, and then I'll write out some more thoughts here, but do we allow for duplicate classes at this point? I feel like we shouldn't. Do we allow for duplicate classes? E.g. having 2 warriors? Switch out skills at certain levels? I still feel like that's too much control. And only because of what I'm picturing happening eventually. Like, in this system that we have here, we have 2 characters. And in the prototype, the way that it worked was your characters eventually, they started with 3 abilities. So like I move this character over to here and we see I have Fire Blast, Lightning Zaps, and Boulder. So now imagine that both of these have 2 different abilities they're using. That's 4 total. You add in a third character, it's now 6. Now if they all have 3 abilities, it's actually 12. And like abilities will just be flying all over the place. You know, like this thing will be casting fireballs and shooting arrows, and this thing will be, I don't know, absorbing attacks and buffing your other party members. And I think if you're swapping those things out when there's so much happening in a battle, I think it would lead to it being tough for you to figure out which swaps are you making and are they meaningful. So actually, there's kind of another way we could do this. Third one would work if you had something like skill items you buy or loot or craft. Yeah. Could have these skills be items that you buy, loot, craft. So here's actually kind of what I'm thinking of. What if you only had a maximum of 2 abilities on each character? This would make it much simpler to follow and would set up for party battles more easily. Then maybe you can swap out 1 skill so you have 3 to choose 2 from. Yeah. Excuse me. I kind of like that idea. Yeah, I think 2 abilities would be enough, especially because if you ever did end up with 9 characters, you'd have 18 abilities being used, which is, quite a lot of stuff going on, and that could be pretty fun. I think this would work. And I think eventually allowing you to pick a third ability would be fine. So I think this is what we probably go with here. Oh yeah, so this still doesn't answer our question though. So I'll write some conclusions for this. Allow for only 2 abilities. Is 9 the max party size? I think it probably should be, because I think 9 of your own characters fighting would already have a lot of stuff going on. Oh, you know what I never answered? What happens if just one of your characters dies? Yeah, I talked about if you lose the whole instance, but I didn't talk about what happens if just one dies. What? Whoa, 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 whoa. What just happened? I don't know where I just... Okay, there. So what happens if just one of your characters dies in a group? Yeah. I didn't figure out summons yet, no. So maybe 9 is your max party size and you have like a couple of summon slots or something, or maybe 7 is the max party size and summons can boost it up to 9. I'm not sure. One night you can revive them, but it costs each other character's life. I think there'd have to be, like, if it's mid-instance, there are 2 ways that we could kind of consider the death of a character here. Death, like, mid-instance, and death at the end of the instance. So, for example, you have 1 fight down and 3 more to go, but 1 character is dead. So, like, is there a way to revive eventually? Maybe, I don't know. And then what happens if you beat the whole instance, you won, but one of your characters is dead? Like, the character presumably revives somehow, right? But you still win the instance. There, okay. So, allow for only 2 abilities per character, and maybe allow each character to learn 3 but equip 2. We'll come back tonight to level 800 characters. Yeah. This would also solve the problem of a healer having only a heal ability. Maybe everyone can equip an like a basic attack, so that they're not useless alone. Maybe a medical center in the town for revising healing. Yeah, I think the easiest thing to do is probably just say, like, when you get back to town, you're at full life again. And then eventually we could have a more in-game reason for this stuff happening. Hey, Faceless. Third ability could always be a passive slot too. I think the passives will modify your other skills. Like, I was still thinking of having the skill tree that the original game has. So something like this, where you choose how to modify your abilities that you have. And then, yeah, maybe your equip screen is really just literally like 3 abilities at any given time, and you pick 2. And I think that could be interesting. In fact, I think maybe even starting you with 2 abilities is probably fine. Or maybe we just start you with 2 abilities. I don't know what's happening, but I see idle. Yeah, idle, it's not really going to end up being an idle game, but yeah, if you take a look at the today command, you'll see what's going on here. But welcome in. All right, so yeah, so the design of the characters. So let's say you had a warrior. I mean, you could give them the abilities that we sort of have now. We could have something like slash and crush, which is like guaranteed hit, physical damage, single target, and like 80% hit, lots of damage, single target. Yeah. Could also take in count. But you carry them back, so you have 5 down, 4 up. One of them is dead. Oh, I don't want there to be permanent death in the game. I don't think permanent death would be a fun thing in this game. I want it to be a chill game where it's not something where you plan everything out way in advance, and if you mess it up, then it's like, oh man, I got to restart my whole save file or something. Like, I just don't think it's gonna work that. Yeah. All right, so the only problem with allowing for eventually 3 abilities but having you only equip 2 is that the balance becomes very tough. But I think that kind of character customization is interesting. So the balance becomes tough, and then you'll probably want respecializations for your skills. Actually, I just thought of an idea. I don't know. Other games have probably done this because other games have done everything when it comes to skill points. But okay, so what if you have 3 abilities, and let's just say you have like slash, crush, and sweeping arc like you do in the original game. And what if every skill point you got really applied to all 3? So imagine this sort of scenario where we have our warrior here, and we see slash, sweeping arc, and crush, and we have our choices. But 2 available skill points meant you could click 2 of these buttons, 2 of these buttons, and 2 of these buttons. So like I could put 2 points in execution, 2 points in extended arc, and 2 points in dire slash with those 2 skill points I had. So essentially each ability has its own available skill points. And that way, there's no reason for you to feel like, well, I never touched the 3rd ability, but now I can't use it because I put all my points into the first 2. I don't know. I still want to figure out how progression should work. And maybe the way progression works is these are items that modify your abilities and they slowly boost up your power. I am not totally sure. Maybe it gets randomly assigned. I think it's better to just pick all abilities. So it's really the abilities themselves that have mod points available. How about this? Let's start with the base game just having 2 abilities. I think that's fine at first. Yeah, I think that's good. So 2 abilities per character and only 2 abilities. And maybe just also for the sake of ease, you start with the 2 abilities. Yeah. Okay, that's the easiest possible thing, so let's start with that. Hey, Casey. Good to have you back. Miss having good background noise. No, I know, yeah. Yeah, it's good to be back. Although I am coughing quite a lot this morning. Um, last week was very important to take off, though. Would make sense if each skill had lots of modifiers to choose from. Yeah, except for I still think each of the skills having lots of modifiers, like they should all just be strict upgrades. Like if we look at this, this is a chance to do more slashes. This is a chance to add damage over time. You can imagine chance to crit, chance to hit 2 enemies, chance to do something else. So it's like slash becomes a very powerful skill when you fully upgraded it, and it's like picking which ones you like. And really, honestly, it would just be picking which ones you like. Like there wouldn't really be better choices than any other ones. It's just like, hey, what made sense to you? And yeah, having eventually more abilities could be interesting. So battle system, did I write this out? I don't think I wrote this out anywhere. Yeah, I don't think I wrote this anywhere. Did I write ability anywhere in the top? What's the first instance of it? Yeah, I don't know about this. Just delete that part. Okay, so yeah, adventurers have a class, e.g. warrior, mage, etc. Classes have a predefined set of skills, of 2 skills. Skills are used as soon as they've cooled down. If this isn't enough, we can allow for a pool of 3 skills from which you choose 2. But then we probably need to allow for re-specializing so that your 3rd skill doesn't suck compared to the other 2. Skills are used as soon as they've cooled down. And yeah, so now the class design, because that's still the part I never actually talked about, right? So should there ever be a class that has no way of dealing damage? Yeah, should there ever be a class that has no way of dealing damage? If that class exists, then you may get into a position where only that character is alive, and so it means you're guaranteed to lose. And it could be, I mean, there are other ways around this. It could be that every class has a basic attack that doesn't count toward your 2 abilities. I don't really, I think just for the sake of flavor, it's fine to have a class that has no way of dealing damage. And that this is where having a choice of which abilities you want would be good. But we could also theme these very differently. Like I had that whole class defining passive that we talked about. Yeah, it could have something like Thorns. I mean, Thorns would have to do enough damage where you don't functionally lose the battle when only that character is left and they, are dealing like 2 damage per attack to enemies. Yeah, imagine you and your healer buddy get jumped and you die first. Yeah. Yeah. So class defining passive ability for the cleric can be to deal damage healed. To convert life healed into damage against enemies. Yeah, I think though being able to pick your skills at some point would probably be pretty good. All right, so skills are used as soon as they've cooled down, and classes don't have to have damage dealing abilities. E.g., hey, Oppressal. Are you still doing OLS, Oppressal? There could be a cleric that has a heal and a buff. Yeah. Okay. I think this is working. We gotta look at all this stuff at the end anyway. Also, other things is like, did I look through all of the other questions in the original document? It should be easy at some point to just look through everything and have an answer for it. Like if I just go look through it right now, in fact, if we just go to the question section, what happened to the question section? Is it up or down? Yeah, there we go. Okay, yeah. Should you start with fewer than 3 abilities and work your way up? Like we pretty much already answered that. Could make this a party game. We pretty much already answered that. Like how do we show battles? Pretty much already answered. So like we'll be able to just skip through a lot of those. So what's next? May need to change how these are designed. If they're oh yeah, so that's right. Classes don't have to have damage dealing abilities. There could be a cleric that has a heal and a buff. So in general, this means that classes can fill specific roles like tank or healer, since there is party-based combat. Stop for a bit. Now I feel like I'm back to being more productive. Nice. Yeah. That was basically the whole point. You kind of proved you could do it, and if it served its purpose, it served its purpose. That's pretty good. I think this is working out. All right, what other questions do we have? So I think we have that. And we don't want too many. Do we allow for duplicate classes? I'm inclined to say no, because I don't think that would be interesting. Like at some point, you're probably choosing who to hire onto your team. And maybe you have a choice of 2 or 3 at any given time. But like, would it be interesting to have like 4 warriors on a team? And I guess more importantly, what does it mean? Okay, well, let's talk about this. So, do we allow for duplicate classes? Let's lay down some parameters. Let's say the maximum party size is 9. So that means you'd have at most 27 characters doing something at any given time, since there are 3 instance slots. So like, what if you got, 12 warriors? Is it fun? Yeah, cool, Presley. Yeah, I'm glad it worked. If you got like some of this, it's fun to experiment as a player and find out what works and what doesn't. Yeah, they're fun as challenges once you've beaten the game. But is it interesting from playing through your first time? And I feel like, okay, I think this question's kind of answering itself, which is, if builds are drastically different, then it probably makes some sense to allow this. But otherwise, I think it would feel a bit tedious. Also, if you choose multiple characters of the same class and decide you don't like them, then what do you do? You kind of have this question even if you're not picking multiple of the same class. Like, what if you pick the cleric and you're just like, I hate this thing? Then what? Yeah, so I'm inclined to say you just get one of each class at some point. Yeah. You can only hire one of each class. I gotta write some rationale for some of this stuff. Rationale with party battles having more than 2 abilities per character going off all the time would probably be too much happening at once. I don't think there'll be the build diversity to support having, say, 3 warriors. Okay, I think we're good. Let's go back to those questions. If there are healers, then having to heal after a battle may not make as much sense, but an alchemist shop could still improve healing. Probably wouldn't be their first skill they get, or you have an auto attack. Yeah, sure, I think this is all fine. It's okay. Roles aren't necessary, but it would make the party combinations more interesting. One issue with roles is there may be a best combination and not enough of those role groupings to go around. Yeah, this is like a lot of games have some that have like the roles are typically tank, healer, and damage dealer. And typically you have like, you know, X tanks, X healers, and maybe like somewhere between 2 to 5x damage dealers. That's like a typical, like a Dungeons and Dragons party would be like one tank, one healer, and the rest are damage dealers or something. And so what I was wondering is, okay, what if this is the ideal party composition in this game, and yet you only have one tank character? Like, are your other parties worse? Because this is gonna happen unless you're unlocking, you know, 4 characters at a time. Then you've still got to find some way to make the extras work for you. And that's where being able to choose abilities is probably pretty important. Oh man. Yeah, so you can imagine a character like, I don't know, a paladin character where you have an attack, another attack, and a heal. And you're like, oh, as a damage dealer, I'll equip these things. But as a hybrid, I'll equip these things. Okay, I think how you develop the characters needs to be probably a little bit different. Yeah, so how are you upgrading your characters? In the prototype, it was by putting points into mods of skills. Yeah, so I guess the real question here is, how do we make various combinations of roles work, knowing that you may not have enough tanks, healers to go around? Excuse me. Maybe 6 max, 2 per role. Are you talking about abilities? Like 6 abilities? Or 6 characters? Max party size. Oh, that's not exactly what I'm talking about. I guess what I'm talking about is like, imagine if we just say that the classes in the game are something like this, like warrior, and we give them a role here. So this is damage, maybe mage is damage, maybe cleric is healer, paladin could be like tank or something like that. And you write all these out. So now, how many of each class would there be? And let's say it works out to be like 3 tanks, 3 healers, and I don't know, 9 damage dealers. So we have 15 total classes. What I was trying to get at is, what happens if you're in sort of the mid game and you specifically have unlocked like 2 tanks, 1 healer, and maybe 4 damage dealers? So now your party number 1 could be like tank, healer, DPS, or something like that. Your party number 2 could be like tank, DPS, DPS. And I don't know, party number 3 just DPS. I'm not sure. I don't know how you lay this out, but like, is this a problem? And we could always have solo instances, so it's like, oh well, this character will just go in on their own and they just won't get very much loot. Yeah, 1 tank and 8 DPS. Yeah, so I could see this becoming an issue where you're like, oh, this is the group that I like because it's got a good balance of everything. Do you plan to make the controls reassignable? Mouse controls are not in line with my personal intuition. Almost certainly yes, but the controls of the final game are going to be very different because of how much the game is changing. So like what you're seeing in the prototype is a thin slice of what I think is going to end up being in the game. And when you have played enough of the prototype where you're like, okay, cool, I have an idea, I would say to read the top of this document just to see what the main changes are going to be. Yeah, so with this, there are a few different things we could do here. We could say option number 1 would be like allow for choosing different abilities. so that some of your characters can play multiple roles. Option number 2 is allow for solo or duo instances, even at later levels, so that the extra DPS can still do something. Option number 3 is just like give you more characters than you have like usable slots at any point. That way you could always have access to extra tanks and healers. I guess just option 4 is like balance the game around this not being an issue. Oh man, I don't know. I think option number 1 is the best. But that causes other issues. Yeah. Well, maybe we just solve the other issues then. Because like I think it'd be cool if a warrior had an ability layout like this, like tank ability, damage ability, something like that. It's like you can choose a little bit. Maybe they should all just be kind of role based. You could have all your extra characters sit in the town and you select them when you're. Yeah, that's what would happen if you went with option number 3, for sure. So you basically would get that like you're about to go to the forest, form your party, and you're like, oh, I want the tank, the healer, and the DPS. And then all your other characters would just be like, tank number 2, tank number 3 would just be sitting around not chosen for this. Yeah, so I think what we could do is we could give, I think having just 3 abilities to choose from, I think would be good. So then there might be a character like, Paladin, which is a pure hybrid. You get a choice between all of these. Cleric would have something like heal ability, buff ability. And that way you have some flexibility. I could see this being interesting. Yeah. So you eventually pick which 3 skills or which 2 skills you want out of the 3. Hey, LSRP. Welcome in. I tagged you on a Discord message because we were talking about adding another system last week, and I'm like, you know what? Let's just move forward without doing this. And then I was like, no, let's do this. Oh, you saw it yesterday. Okay, yeah. Oh, you don't need to feel bad about this or anything. I'll say this. I didn't do this because one person communicated like, hey, I want something extra here. I thought about it. I talked to other people. I had game design discussions with at least like 3 other people. And having an actual voice conversation, I think, is really important for moving quickly through a bunch of game design ideas. And I'd only been having text conversations on the stream. But yeah, I don't think you bullied me into it. And I think the game will be better for it. I think this is pretty much how we have to lay things out. And I want to figure out a way to make this work. So let's talk about that. So conclusion for having only so many of each role is to have hybrid classes. And allow for a pool of 3 abilities from which you can pick 2. So we have something like this. And maybe the mage is like, it's just damage abilities. Damage ability. Yeah. So now the new question becomes, how do you upgrade these abilities? And this is where I was describing this earlier. We have, where did I write this down? I don't know where I wrote this down. I didn't write it down. Okay, well, whatever. All right, so the prototype way of doing things was put a point into a mod of 1 ability. Downside, This makes you want to respec if you mess up. So option number 1 could be this idea of 1 skill point is really 3 mod points, and that you can put a point into each of your 3 abilities. In other words, the abilities have their own available points counter next to them. And every level up grants each ability 1 point. So that's one option of doing things. The other option is you get points, you upgrade abilities by buying the upgrades, by buying them. That way you don't need to level up a new character. You just spend money. Yeah, I can benefit from your style in my career, but find it hard to keep up. Oh, I don't think you should worry about keeping them up to date. Consider that to be a second problem. The first problem is just you want to be organized right now. And the second problem is you want to maintain that organization for later. So just start writing stuff and see if it helps. Because from that, you'll learn so much about how you like to take notes, how you like to maintain them. And yeah, if I were to just go to like file, delete document or whatever, I don't even know if that's a thing you can do. Yeah, move to trash. If I were to do this at the end of every note, I would still have gotten value out of the note. So yeah, don't worry about keeping stuff up to date. Consider that a different problem. And if it really becomes an issue, then tackle it later. Honestly, this option number 2 is not too bad, except the balancing is probably tough. Probably have like first point in an ability costs, you know, let's say like 100, and then second point is, I don't know, like 300 or something, and it goes up like that. Oh yeah, I would still keep the notes. I know. I don't necessarily recommend treating them all like they're temporary, but it does at least make it so that you can just focus on how do I want to write things down for now. Also, respecializing is not the end of the world here. I think you could just buy respecs. Just allow for buying respecs with money. Oh, there is a problem with this. Oh, yeah, actually. The problem with respecializing is if you have to do it often, because then it becomes tedious. Wow, I'm very torn. Yeah, I honestly don't know. Is it important that you even upgrade abilities? I guess so. I guess in systems like this, it's important to say, what are the requirements? So how about we back up a second, talk about the requirements. So don't make people feel like they have to reallocate points all the time based on switching roles. That would feel tedious. And allow people to customize their characters. Allow people to make their characters more powerful. These are 2 separate things. Customizing and making them more powerful, like they're 2 separate reasons. They're accomplished by the same system. By choosing skill A over skill B, you're doing both of these. But they're both requirements, and sure, they can be met with the same thing. What else do we have as requirements for this? I don't know. I think that might be it. This system isn't too bad. You just get mod points for all your abilities, and then you can allow for respecing that, but respecing that would be super important. What would that look like? I mean, from a UI perspective, we had this. We could just say how many skill points are available for each of these. I mean, then you're clicking 3 buttons every time you level up, though. I don't know. That's not so bad. I feel like that's what we should probably start with. Oh man. Okay, let's write this down. How about just unlocking the points every level and you get plus or minus buttons to add or remove? Oh, you're saying like you could respecialize at any point. So the problem I think you kind of run into with even that. So let's say we have something like that paladin class, and you have a damage ability, you have a heal ability, and you have a tank ability. And so you've got, you know, mod 1, and you see you got 3 points, and you see a plus and a minus button. And mod 2, and you see you got 0 points, you have a plus, and I guess a grayed out minus button, and so on and so forth for all of these. The issue is that in one dungeon you may want a damage plus heal paladin, and in another you may want a heal plus tank paladin. So if you have like 12 points assigned, you're clicking like 24 buttons. Yeah, presets, yeah. But at that point it's like, I guess if you gave them a point in each ability, then you're not really having them specialize so much. And yeah, I think that part is not so great. Also, there could just be a like dump all points button into here. Yeah. There is one other thing I need to consider with that, which is you could change these mid-battle. Are these for the game in general, or is this per playable character? Per playable character. Whoops. So characters have abilities, 3 abilities. You choose 2 to equip. Yeah, lock the tree when entering the portal. Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Yeah. Okay, I think we'll start with that, Darkstorm. I'll write all that down. Where did I write down the 2 abilities thing? Here it is, 2 skills. No, so classes have a predefined set of 3 skills, but can only equip, I'll put that in quotes, you're not really equipping skills, only equip 2 at a time. Yeah. Okay, abilities, I should say abilities here. Abilities cannot be switched while in an instance. And abilities are upgraded via skill points that you earn on leveling up. And at any point, you can add or subtract. Well, not at any point. When not in an instance, you can add or subtract points however you like. So wouldn't you build an entire arsenal of diverse characters? Well, so to be clear here, here's kind of how I expect these to work, is something like this. Your warrior will have these 3 abilities. A tank ability, imagine something like mitigate the next damage you'll take by, 20, 40, 60%, something like that. And then 2 damage abilities, like attack 1 enemy, attack 3 enemies. So now at any point you can equip 2 of these. So the warrior can't be like a full tank. It's not designed to be that. So you could equip the tank ability and one of the damage abilities. So you pick based on what you need. And then there will be another character that is like more of a tank. So maybe there's some like, I don't know, a knight character or something like that, which is just like 3 tank abilities. That's all you have. And you pick which 2 you want, but it's designed as a tank. So all of this is helping to just mitigate damage or something. Does that make sense? Because I think this system can work, and I think it'll still give enough variety, but without overwhelming you with choices. So at any given time, you're choosing which ability do you not want, and you're just picking one ability you don't want. And then you're putting points into the abilities that you have remaining. So the other thing we need to say here is, yeah, classes have a predefined set of 3 abilities, can only equip 2 at a time. And the way that this will present itself is that each class will have a like a loose role that's assigned. E.g., the warrior may have a tanking ability and 2 damage dealing abilities. So if you need a tank in a pinch, you can have the warrior act like one. But the mage may only have damage dealing abilities. Rationale is this allows for customization of your characters and parties without being too overwhelming. I like this. I like this a lot. I think this will work. I also think that, yeah, I think this solves basically all the problems. Rationale, this prevents you from needing a... This allows you to respec while still forcing you to specialize before entering an instance. You can't hot swap classes, but you can reassign abilities on the fly, let's say in the middle of a fight. Not in the middle of a fight. In the middle of a fight could do weird things, because imagine if you had a class like one that has a buff ability, which is maybe something like, you know, make target deal 100% more damage for the rest of the fight. So like imagine equipping this just to the point where your character uses it, then unequipping it. And like, I don't want to run into those weird things, and I don't want you to have to micromanage battles that way, and the game's not going to support doing that exactly. So the way this new system is going to work is you are going to click, I mean, I guess it's described here. You are going to, I didn't write this down, did I? Yeah, probably removed in favor of, yeah. So this is just removed now in favor of instances and dungeons. You're going to go to something like, you are entering the forest zone, choose your party, and it'll say like 3 max. And so you say, you know what, I want the warrior for this, I want my whatever cleric for this, and I want my mage for this. And then these 3 will be in a party, and they'll show up sort of like what you see here. You'll see your warrior, your mage, and your cleric, and they move around as a unit. And so for that instance, you are that party. So you could, if you lose, if you win, whatever, you can change next time around. You could be like, you know what, that did not work well. I need to change my abilities, or I need to change my party composition around. As long as classes are diverse and you can easily reconfigure your fighting team, I don't see people needing or wanting to reassign abilities all too often. Oh, yeah. The point was, I think if you allow them to do these sorts of things, some people will be like, this is a feature of the game, so I need to do this during a battle to try to maximize like mid-battle how the automation is playing out. And I don't want that to be a thing that we even allow, because it's like a surface for bugs for no reason. Or well, for no benefit, not for no reason. Okay. So I am quite happy with that. So now this, oh, right. I don't think I wrote the reason for this though, right? Did I? Allows for customization and parties without being too overwhelming. And also this allows you to have characters fill multiple roles. Without this, it may be a problem if you only hired 1 tank character, but have 3 parties going. Not sure why YouTube brought me here. I am not sure either, but welcome in, Dr. Kitten. I am just doing game design, so a lot of what we're doing today is just kind of text-based, but it's based on a prototype that I had made and launched like a week or 2 ago, which is this game, Idle Ascendants. And through this, I learned that some things here work and some things don't work, and yeah. That's where we stand right now. Yeah, welcome in. All right, what other questions do we still have? We're running out of time for the morning stream, but I'll do this in the afternoon too. So how do we make various combinations of roles work? That's totally fine. We're done now. Do we allow for duplicate classes? So when you only have 3 abilities you can choose from and you can swap at will, I still think it's not necessary. I know we already answered no to this, but I'm pretty convinced it should still be no, even with these new changes. So I think it's fine. So roles aren't necessary, but it makes party combinations more interesting. I think that's true. Regardless of roles, you need to think of what kind of customization. I think this is fine now that we only have 2 abilities, and there can be abilities that affect lower the, yeah, whatever. Sure, fine. How are you upgrading your characters? And the prototype was, yeah, we already answered that. What's the maximum party size you can ever attain? Yeah, so I need to figure out how this works with summons. and I think I wrote this down somewhere. How should summons affect this? I'll just bump this up to here. So, to be honest, I don't think it makes sense to have an actual party size of 9. So what's the max party size and how do summons work? Oh, the keyboard stuff. I see. Well, I hope you like that video. All right, so option number 1, well, with summons, option number 1 is just summons can fill any slots not taken up by party members. Option number 2 is summons have dedicated summon slots. And I mean, that's pretty much it, right? They've gotta be there somewhere. So they're either taking up spaces that you might have used by party members, or they're taking up spaces that are dedicated for them. Or I guess option number 3 is there is no limit. Option number 3 is a stupid option. I don't think that's a good idea. And to be honest, between options 1 and 2, I think option 1 is bad because this punishes summoners for being in large parties. What just happened there? Parties, but the game steers you toward large parties. Or yeah, some other benefit if they can't summon. Option number 4, there's some other benefit if there's no room for a summon. What's the summon limit? Yeah, so then the question would be, if we did this, 2A is each summoner has its own dedicated slots. And 2B, hang on one second. Okay. I gotta get going in about, well, I was gonna get going in about 5 minutes anyway, but now I kind of have to get going in about 5 minutes. I started my stream almost 3 hours ago, and I usually start early, so I know it's not gonna be exactly noon, but the plan is gonna be, I'm gonna take a break for lunch, and then about an hour later is start another 3-hour stream. And we'll just keep going through these decisions, doing mock-ups and everything. I'll just finish my thoughts on this. So each summoner has its own dedicated slots, or summoners share the dedicated slots. And a lot of this comes down to how many summoners are there and how do they summon. So how many summoners are there and how do they summon? So for example, regarding the how is like, are they I don't know. I'll just say like 1 total summon versus a horde. Yeah. So I think there should be a few, but probably not tons. And I think there should be a variety in how they summon. So e.g. a necromancer maybe has like upwards of 5 skeletons, but a dragoon has 1 wyvern anytime, something like that. The problem is representing this in a battle. Like, in order to accommodate room for extra characters here, you need actual physical room for them, right? Like, how else would you do this? So what we could do is we could say there could be a maximum party size of, say, 5 main characters. That would leave 4 slots for summons. Then we can have 3 extras. So maybe 7 total summons. That could kind of work. Recommend that considering our space bars have been broken for the better part of a month. I mean, that should be an easy enough thing to fix. Or just, I guess, get a new keyboard if you can't fix it. Would 5 main characters feel like enough? I just feel like if you're putting 9 different characters into a battle, that could be, I don't know, it could be fun. It could be quite a lot going on. I'm almost inclined to say that we don't spend too long thinking about this. To get extra summons in a battle, we would probably need an extra like column for each party. Excuse me. Maybe make summons take 1/4 of a tile. They could, yeah. Where will I publish this game once it's done? Probably to Steam, to itch. Yeah, Steam and itch. Some limit per encounter or per main character? If a main character dies before they had a chance to summon, then opportunity is lost. Oh, I see what you're saying. I don't. I mean, I know you say strategic planning, but remember, I still plan on having battles be automated. So if your character gets targeted before it has a chance to summon, I guess it's a strategic problem and that you should have had more tanks in the party. But it could just be bad luck. Yeah, everything's automated. Like the battles are totally automated. You have no control during a battle. Yeah. All right. I should probably get going. We'll have to continue this. This is where I left off with this stuff. So we'll pick this up in the afternoon. Again, the rest of today is just going to be design. Wednesday and Friday will also be streams, and we will probably be tackling more design, but then also some like mock-ups and maybe some like really simple prototypes. But yeah, I got to get going. So thank you all for watching. I hope you'll come back for the afternoon. And yeah, if not, see ya. There won't be a stream tomorrow. I'm going to be using it for making a YouTube video. But yeah, take care. See ya.